Okay, in the last video we made the 3 contact positions. In this video we're going to focus on the passing position. Now it is pretty standard in animation to work in between or in the middle from your first keyframe to the last ending keyframe. So we're going to constantly be working in between keyframes, and that's going to keep us on track and give us a more believable action. So in this video we're working on the passing, and the first thing I'm going to do is drag my scrubber over the passing keyframe in the guide and shift select all the keyframes or all the frames down there and make a new set of keyframes by using the hotkey F6. Okay. I'm going to turn onion skinning on so I can see where I started and where I'm ending. And let's zoom in a little bit. Alright. Now this is the pose that we're creating. In this pose, this is where the left foot is planted and the right foot has begun its pass over into the next step. And a couple things are going on here to really pay attention to. The body has become centered, or the weight of the body has become centered over the left foot. Now this foot, in this period in the walk, this brief moment in time, is where all the weight is being centered. So you can see this line. So we're going to have to adjust this foot right here, or the body rather, to be centered over this weight, or the weight centered over this foot. And also the leg has lifted in order to make the step and to progress from the contact to begin to raise over and take the next step. So this part of the thigh is actually going to be a little bit higher than where it started. So it's going to, lift off a little bit. So let's actually begin making this step. So with the whole body selected, with all the frames selected, I'm going to use my free transform tool, and this time I'm going to drag the pivot all the way down onto the heel of the left foot, and lean the whole body over. And I'm not really focused on the body so much as I am focused on getting this foot just right. And I am going to now deselect the foot. So holding down shift and clicking on the foot, now I have the whole body sans the left foot selected, and I'm going to put it back on the ankle and lean it forward a little bit. Now I'm going to also, again, shift click the lower left leg. So now everything is selected sans lower left leg and lower left foot, and put that cursor or that pivot right on the knee. Sort of rock it back a little bit. So now we have this a little bit more adjusted pose. And I'm going to do the same thing again. Shift select or shift click the thigh of the left leg, and so now everything is selected except for the leg, the left leg. And I'm actually going to put the mid torso into wireframe so I can see where I'll put that pivot, and lean this body back a little bit. Now, one thing to keep in mind though when we're looking at this chart is that in the passing, her head is going to be slightly lower than the high point, but it's about the same height as the contact, so we really don't have to adjust it just yet. So we're going to keep it where it's at, so we're pretty even, and that's a good thing. Might want to make sure it is centered though, so we can actually bring this whole body forward a little bit. So let's do that. I'm going to take this off wireframe so I can see. Actually, go back and hold down shift so I don't change it up or down. There we go. So the bulk of her weight is now centered over this foot, and now we can focus on the right leg. So this is where the right leg started from, and we just want to select just that. So all 3 layers, change the pivot point, bring it forward, and actually I'm going to use the arrow key and nudge it up maybe 5 or 6 clicks and bring it over to the right, maybe 1 shift click, or whatever looks right. And now shift click the upper thigh, so now only the lower right leg and the right leg foot are selected, and finish off this pose. Now adjust the right leg foot, just some fine adjustment. Now we can focus on these arms. Actually going to take the onion skinning off because it can get a little distracting. And as you can see, the right arm and the right leg are almost kind of in line with each other. So even though I make these selections quite quickly, I'm still always trying to make sure and pay attention that the scrubber is hovering over the frames that I want it to. That's extremely important to get this animation looking right. So those in line. Now we're going to do it to the other arm. And in this progression, this arm is going to start, this right arm is actually going to start swinging back, as you can see, swinging back, and the left arm is going to start swinging forward. So let's select those, and since I can't see them at all, I'm going to put the mid torso and the upper torso in wireframe, and keep it in line with this leg right here, this back leg. Okay, that looks like a really good passing pose. Double click the wireframe, and so now we can scrub back and forth. See that left leg, that left leg foot stays planted. That's important. And actually looks like weight has been shifted. That's good. To the middle contact. This is going to be a very solid walk. So let's go and now do the other passing. So holding down shift and click, so now I have the whole selection of all these layers, and using the hotkey F6 made a new keyframe, and again I'm going to put that onion skin on so I can see where I'm coming from, the last contact and the next contact, the end contact. And in this one, so we can see over here, this passing is where the right foot has been planted, and now the left foot is taking its walk. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to, with the whole body selected, and the free transform tool, I'm going to bring that pivot point down onto the right foot and finish planting that foot. Now I don't want to straighten out this leg just yet because that's not the high point. We're in the passing, so it should be slightly bent still. So with the right foot, I'm going to deselect it so everything is selected but the right foot by holding down shift and clicking on the right foot. Now everything is selected but the right foot, and I'm going to bring this pivot back down to the ankle and maybe lean it back a little bit. Now I'm going to deselect the lower right leg by clicking on it and do the same thing, but this time bring that pivot onto the knee and maybe rise it up a little bit. I'm also going to do the same thing where I'm going to shift click the right leg. So now everything is selected but the right leg, and bring that pivot down and sort of rock the rest of the body into a nice easy position. And remember, I want all this mass to be evenly balanced over this foot, so I might have to bring it forward a little bit, and I'm going to hold down shift and drag it forward with the mouse just a touch, and that looks pretty good. All their weight is centralized on that foot. And now I'm going to put the bulk of the body onto a wireframe so I can see it, and except for the back leg, I'm going to leave that solid, and I'm going to select that, drag the pivot point, and again we're going to mimic what we did for this keyframe. We're going to do the same over here. So it is now leaving that pass contact and should be now moving into the next contact. So now I'm just going to select on the timeline over here in the layers the lower left leg and the left leg foot, and drag that pivot to the knee, and now I'm just grab the foot. So this one actually probably will need a little bit more adjusting to get it just right. So something like that, and I bet it's a little bit higher, so I'm going to adjust it with the arrow keys. A lot of this is intuitive from animating for a while, but if it doesn't make 100% sense to you, what to keep in mind is that a walk is essentially a controlled fall. It is you're falling forward and you thrust your leg out in front of you to catch your fall. So it's like a graceful fall. And even though we don't see all of that back leg, it will make sense once we make that next step. So again, we're going to adjust these arms, and in this next step, this is where the right arm actually comes forward when the right leg starts going back. So make a selection from the right arm and the right hand. Now it's about in line with the leg again, and going to do the same with the left arm and left hand. Going to put them in line with the back leg, and double click wireframe and get rid of the onion skin. Zoom out a little bit so we can see how this walk is progressing. So we have 5 keyframes out of the 9 done, and already we should have a pretty stable looking walk. So what we're paying attention to is that the foot and the leg that is planted doesn't move or slide around, that it stays planted throughout the duration of the step, which is, and that's kind of a big stride over there, but we have one keyframe to make before you can see that's a big pop, but we'll see what can be done in the next the next video. We will make the recoil and the high point, and we'll finish off this walk cycle and do some fine adjustment if needed.